Namaskar, everyone. Welcome. I'm Ravi Gupta. I am editor-in-chief of Digital Learning Magazine. This is India's and Asia's first and only magazine focusing on ICT in education, innovation in education. And I am here to welcome you all at the 18th edition of the World Education Summit. As you are all aware, that World Education Summit is a premier event happening since 2011, and it is organized, conceptualized by ILETS and Digital Learning Magazine as the knowledge partner of this event. And we have been focusing on bringing together some of the important leaders in the education space to this event and creating dialogues for fostering innovation in education. And I welcome all the delegates who are watching us on the Avatar platform, which is our in-house platform developed by ILETS. And this event is going to see a host of institutions, both from India and abroad, and education innovators and leading startups, leading companies who are influencing and changing the way higher education is being created, delivered, and consumed by the students. And today in the inaugural session, I have the honor and the privilege of having Shri Nikhil Agrawalji, who is the CEO of FIRST and CS at IIT Kanpur. This is the startup initiative of IIT Kanpur, and Dr. Nikhil Agrawal is leading this initiative by building our collaborations of startups with investors, the private sector, and the government sector. And we have with us Professor Hemachandra Reddy, who is the chairman of AP State Council of Higher Education at Guntur. Welcome, Professor Hemachandra Reddy ji. Thanks for joining us. So we will have these two important speakers in our inaugural session, and let me request each of the speakers to give your initial remarks for around 5 to 7 minutes regarding what are your thoughts around a lot of changes have happened in last 1 year in the overall higher education space. Students are sitting at home and like learning online. Teachers are delivering online education. Lots of IT interventions have happened in a big way in 1 year, and the whole employment and employability scenario has also dramatically evolved and changed. So how are you seeing the higher education innovation ecosystem? So let me request to start with Professor Reddy to give your views in next 5 minutes. So I will be like asking a series of questions to each of you to keep the session interesting and interactive. So over to you, Professor Reddy. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi, for this wonderful opportunity given to me. At the outset, let me congratulate ILETS Technomedia for bringing together all the distinguished academicians onto one platform to discuss, deliberate, and decide on the future of coming generations of the young minds. And I'm also thankful to them for inviting me to this World Education Summit, which is scheduled for the next 4 days, and I'm sure meaningful deliberations will happen. And Dr. Ravi, you are asking me about the happenings in higher education in the last 1 year and our thought process.
Yes.
Quite expected, last 1 year is the most difficult year, particularly for the education sector. We have seen tremendous changes and a lot of uncertainties and too many challenges for us. And ever since the pandemic broke down, we had to, within no time, without notice, we had to close down the educational institutions, and the future was totally uncertain. But then we, as educational administrators, we had to work really hard to save the academic year for all the students. And let me tell you, when I'm talking about higher education of Andhra Pradesh, I'm talking on behalf of almost 1 billion students, and it is quite huge in its volume. And we have close to 3,000 higher education institutions and 30 universities in the state. All of them were clueless due to the lockdown that was imposed. And very quickly we had to rise to the occasion. We had to bring in the technology. We had to embrace the technology. We had to very quickly train the teachers on online teaching, and also give the necessary guidelines for the students. And next 6 months, amazing things have happened in the field of higher education. I don't say exclusively in Andhra Pradesh, or the entire country it happened so. And people within no time embraced online teaching learning process. And ICT, I've been telling you for the last 25 years, ICT in education was being much talked about, but I don't know, Nikhil Agrawal ji may have a different view. IITs, they always employ high, I mean, advanced technologies in teaching learning. But in majority of the universities and higher education institutions of the states, it was chalk and talk. In spite of all that technological advancements, ICT could not be effectively even implemented in the institutions. And courtesy this pandemic, within no time, we had to switch over to online teaching learning. And let me tell you, close to 6 lakh lectures, 600,000 lectures have been delivered in the state of Andhra Pradesh alone during the last 7-8 months. And we could save the academic year as such, and we could move forward. Definitely, this time has prompted us to take some, out of them, and to think out of the box and bring in new initiatives, so that higher education will be more qualitative and meaningful down the line. And with this success, initially we decided very strongly that hereafter the teaching learning shall be in blended mode, both traditional chalk and talk in a classroom as well as online learning. And we had brought in a lot of initiatives and curriculum design, because Dr. Ravi was asking me to talk only for 7 minutes. Now I cannot describe all the initiatives. Maybe down the line, when I get an opportunity, I'll be talking about all of them. But we very quickly revised the curriculum, redesigned the curriculum both for non-professional and professional. And we brought in a lot of flexibility into the curriculum. We made internship mandatory. And not only this, and parallelly, the government also, Honorable Chief Minister of the state, Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy, is a visionary, and he's an young man. He started thinking, going technology side. And he very quickly proposed many things. And now we are establishing remote learning centers in all 15,000 villages of the state of Andhra Pradesh. And we are planning for a huge learning management system at the state level. And depending on the need of the students at each and every village or the learners. Now, the very idea of establishing remote learning centers is to promote continuous learning, self-learning, and promote quality. And depending on the need of the student, in pursuit of knowledge, can make a request to the LMS, and the required content will be pushed to these village learning centers. And this will be seamlessly going to the device of the student. And one problem we faced all through these 7 months is there were many complaints on the network and bandwidth issues, and then gadget issues. So government of Andhra Pradesh has decided to provide one laptop to each of the students in higher education. And in fact, we have decided to go from ninth standard onwards. Learn to learn is the caption with which we are going forward. The government of Andhra Pradesh has decided to provide laptops to students from ninth class onwards. So this way, we are coming out in a big way to implement the technology solutions, and thereby, the quality of education could be, very quickly improved. So with all these initiatives and few more that we have planned at State Council of Higher Education, in terms of constituting a quality assurance cell, in terms of constituting a state research board, and also in terms of constituting a higher education planning board. Let me take a minute of your time here to explain the concept of higher education planning board. We have 30 universities in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Some of them are very specialized universities, and so far, these universities never interacted with each other. And also, after the division, partition of the state, ever since we emerged new, we got 8 centrally funded institutions and 3 central universities. And most of them, we found them to be working in isolation. In fact, they're all established with a quality mandate. They were working within their own premises, as if they have no connect to the society in the immediate vicinity of them. But then we thought of bringing all of them together, and therefore we constituted higher education planning board. So this collaborative activity that we planned took off only very recently on 27th February, where all the vice chancellors of the state universities and centrally funded institutions and the directors, we came together and we resolved very strongly to work together for the cause of higher education in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So with so many initiatives happening in the state of Andhra Pradesh, we are very confident. We started our journey towards quality in higher education. We know we thought of bringing in a lot of innovations into the system, so that student will not be out of phase with this natural thinking, and we wanted to allow them to grow quite natural. Swami Vivekananda said, we want that education by which strength of mind is increased, the intellect is expanded, and character is formed. Now, once again, revisiting the fundamentals and also embracing the advanced initiatives and trends happening in higher education. Andhra Pradesh State Council of Higher Education is working on its own and bringing in a lot of initiatives. And I'm sure the initiatives will have far-reaching consequences. And I'm sure we are going very dynamic at this point of time to rejuvenate the whole system and unshackle the old beliefs and bring in new systems in place, so that student will be quite energized as long as he stays with higher education institutions. Dr. Ravi, this is from my side. Maybe I wait for my turn next time. Thank you.
Sorry, Professor Reddy, thanks for highlighting this various initiatives, and I was especially happy to note that the collaboration inside the state between the universities is many times lacking across each and every state. So universities are looking at collaboration with the foreign universities or universities outside India, but they're not even thinking of collaborating with the university which is your next door neighbor, in fact. So I think it's a great initiative, and it will help in fostering innovation in the higher education ecosystem of Andhra Pradesh. Thanks for highlighting this. So let me request Dr. Nikhil Agrawal to talk about how do you see the overall scenario changing in higher education in last 1 year, and especially you are looking at the startup segment. So how that segment in the ecosystem of the higher education is evolving. Your views, Nikhilji.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta, Professor Reddy. I have also a privilege of working in Andhra Pradesh for a few years. As a part of the last, I was a CEO for Innovation Society, the Andhra Pradesh Innovation Society. So before I joined IIT, So certainly, to respond to first one of the queries which Professor Reddy has raised regarding the inter-university collaboration, I think you are absolutely right. There is a lack of interest among the inter-university collaboration, what we have seen earlier, and number of national institutions also run away from the responsibility, which should not be the case. One of the reason of establishing national institution is to promote the education innovation best practices, not only within the institution but also support the institution in the ecosystem. And for national institution, ecosystem is not about the geography where they are located, but the ecosystem is all across the country. And something which we have taken a very cognizant view, and IIT Kanpur, I must say that we have, particularly in the areas that I head, I take care of two very large activities. One is the incubation center, which is now the largest incubation center in the country, running for last 20 years. So we have our own consulting division, we have our own training division now. And recently, the government of India has given us a $24 million grant, which is 170 crore, to set up the Center for Cyber Security. So that's something which I also head. And then we are also we are also setting up the National Center for Artificial Intelligence. Again, we are requesting the government of India to support us in that area. So there are certain activities which are world class, what we are doing. So we, in my centers, what I have done is that we have started to engage with institutions and mentoring them to start the innovation and incubation centers. Now we have an expertise for 20 years, so certainly there is something, some learnings can be shared with the other younger institution or even the older institution which look forward. So today I can tell you that there is at least 10 institutions in Madhya Pradesh, in Rohilkhand, in Uttarakhand, even in Kolhapur, in Jammu Kashmir. We are setting up these relationships and we are mentoring those institutions. That is the one thing. Second, your question about the innovation in education, that how the things are happening. So I am very glad to say that finally, after a long wait, the innovation decade has started. The COVID has given us this insight that there are more important things in life rather than giving the subsidies or doing the big events or doing something, is that we need to invest in healthcare, we need to invest in education. Though the concept of Make in India has been going on in different ways for the last 40-50 years, but it was mainly on the paper side, it was more on the thought process side. So innovation and Make in India and manufacturing revolution was mainly on the pen and paper activity than actual implementation. But due to the COVID, finally I am able to see, and again I'm using this word finally I am able to see the implementation happening on the ground. The kind of response we are getting either from the startup or MSME from the government is phenomenal. The government has also realized that the scheme that has been made in last 4 or 5 years or last even 10 years are finally needed to be put in the place. And I can give you examples after examples. Recently, there was not recently, 3 years back, there was a national mission for artificial intelligence being announced by the government of India for 7,000 crores, $1 billion. Now it's a huge money even by the Western standards. When I tell my Western counterparts that $1 billion investment is happening in AI, they say, "Oh, really? Do India has that kind of money?" That's the first question they ask. I said, yes. But however, what we have done due to the whatever we say, the bureaucratic system or whatever we call it, Dr. Reddy is now part of that, so he will understand what I'm saying. As a professor or as a technocrat, he will understand. So the same challenge. Now, finally, that 7,000 crore national mission for AI has gone into the cabinet for approval. Now, the reason I am little frustrated is that the idea of this 7,000 crores was pretty good in 2018. If it would have happened, we would have saved time, and we would have excelled on technology. Now we have lost 3 precious years. If you look at the United States, I was reading a statistics. I was sending it to one of my friend in US. Last year in US, in last 2 quarters, in 2000, for the quarter 1 and quarter 2 of 2020, more than 500,000 new businesses were set up. And despite of the fact that it was completely locked down and nothing was happening. And now it is assumed that there will be 20%. So that makes almost million plus businesses are set up in United States itself. And at least 30% of them are technology startups. So when we talk about the figures here, we are still very much behind than the developed nation. And one of the reason is that we don't open up our data, we don't provide enough support. There are a couple of breakthrough steps the government has taken. Particularly, I talk about the IT. The first is the opening of the maps. Now imagine such a small thing about the maps. Why we need to safeguard it? I was unable to understand. For 70 years we were safeguarding. Somebody wants to put up a map, let them put up a map. Now, as per the estimate, there are 1 lakh crore worth of innovation will happen in just opening up the map. That's it. 1 lakh crore, imagine. So suddenly there are so many interesting avenues will start. 25 years back, there was a company called Map My India, which was set up. Since last 25 years, they were struggling to get customers. I'm sure they will have their own Paytm movement. Another example where the government has suddenly shown dramatic steps which are welcome is setting up the National Research Foundation. 20,000 crores worth of National Research Foundation has announced. Another step, the privacy data bill. So suddenly the 2020 has given this insight, and I would say eye-opening, not only to the industry, not only to the people, but also to the government, that the innovation decade in India has to start. If it does not start now, then we will be forever remain the developing country, at least in our lifetime. So this is my opinion.
Nikhilji, great insights, and thanks for highlighting so many policy reforms which are happening and which are going to impact the overall research and development ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, and also the higher education ecosystem. Because all these innovations, what all you have mentioned about the research foundation, artificial intelligence, opening up the mapping industry, they will need skilled manpower, and manpower which is highly innovative, highly creative, and which is open to taking risks and challenges. So let me request Professor Reddy to talk about how are you, your institution, as a policy maker, you are taking those steps to foster innovation in higher education ecosystem, and also building the startup environment in the higher education ecosystem itself. Yeah.
Ravi, point taken. And Dr. Nikhil, it is nice to know about your association with Andhra Pradesh. Maybe I'll look forward to meet you sometime. Dr. Ravi, you're talking about the initiatives.
Yes.
Okay. You asked me 2 questions.
So
Can I request you for
yeah. The question is around that many of the like IIT has set up a startup cell and created a startup division in the IIT to help the students to look for at the startup and building up the startups. So in AP also, I think government has taken a lot of steps under the Startup India initiative. So if you can highlight those initiatives.
Yeah, Ravi, you rightly raised the issue. Our Chief Minister is of the view that every higher education institution shall have an incubation center, and startup and incubation center. And now, with that direction from him, we requested all higher education institutions to establish their incubation centers. incubation and entrepreneurship centers. Now, very close to 250 centers have been established as of now in the last 6 months. Establishing it is not a big deal. Providing infrastructure is not a big deal. Creating that ecosystem in the educational institutions, all of a sudden, we are finding it very difficult because the traditional chalk and talk teaching mode and the students taking down the notes by hearting and reproducing kind of learning happening in higher education institutions, quite naturally asking them to think lateral out of the box is becoming a little difficult. So we just wanted to collaborate with some of the national level institutions. We very quickly, without wasting time, signed 2 MOUs, one with National Institution of Research and Development, NIRD, and also Confederation of Indian Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise, towards nurturing, fostering innovation and incubation in the institutions. Now, through these MOUs, we have decided to provide online training to the faculty initially, TOT we call it, and thereafter have specific sessions to orient students towards this, and also bring in all possible success stories. And parallelly, what we are doing, we are trying to identify the successful entrepreneurs in the local areas, and universities were given this task of identifying and providing such opportunities for the students to interact with them, take encouragement from their presence. So all these are happening right now in the state of Andhra Pradesh. The 200 centers started working very enthusiastically. But then I said the size of higher education system in Andhra Pradesh is all about 3,000 odd higher education institutions. As compared to 3,200 is quite less right at this point, but we are quite confident we can expand this and we can bring in the culture in almost every educational institution. And you were also talking about the artificial intelligence. In fact, I could see Abhishek asking this question: how artificial intelligence can help in?
Yes, so these are the questions like which our delegates are asking. So Abhishek is just posting it here. So like you can have a look at it and respond to it. Yeah.
Yes. Artificial intelligence in course registration and shortlisting and enrollment process is going to be highly useful. Let me tell you one experiment we did this year. When I said 3,000, 1,500 of them are degree colleges, which offer conventional degree programs like BA, BCom, BSc, etc., 3-year degree programs. And these institutions were making admissions on their own based on the +2 performance of the students. And for the first time in the state of Andhra Pradesh, we decided to hold online admissions for all the students. Instead of asking the student to go around the institutions, we created one platform where student registers and gives his options. And based on his percentage of marks or merit in the qualifying examination, they would be allotted the seats of their choice. And after we completed the allotment, we came to know many students started complaining that they got some allotment in one college, but after they went there, actually, the college is not doing really good, and they are thoroughly disappointed at the facilities provided at the institution. They started coming back to us and asking for cancellation. Now, this is where, when we talk about such huge, student admission, this admission I am talking about is 260,000 admissions into degree colleges in state of Andhra Pradesh. So quite naturally, artificial intelligence can definitely help the students choosing their courses, because the course descriptions can be made available, the institution infrastructure can be made available, and some of these questions related to the future associated with these courses, and the job prospects associated with the courses, and the college history and the college placement record. All this can be brought in, and through implementing artificial intelligence, quite naturally makes the job of a student very easy in selecting the course. So the strengths of the student and the likes of the student can be mapped with the strengths of the institution and strengths of the courses. So that way, I'm sure, when we talk about large-scale admission process, quite naturally, artificial intelligence can play a long, give a long leverage, huge leverage for all the students. Sitting at his home, he can decide what course and what college. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, Professor Reddy. Let me request Nikhil ji to like take up this question raised by the audience, that what is the importance of innovation and entrepreneurship in education? Also share your views on Self-Reliant India mission.
So Self-Reliant India mission, I'll start from the other way around. Self-Reliant India mission is the extension of the Make in India campaign, and give you certain examples to support that why this Make in India campaign was so important, and tells the new term which has been coined or called Atmanirbhar Bharat or Self-Reliant India is so important. So during the COVID, the IIT Kanpur created a task force of 20 people. Many of them were Padma Shri and Padma Bhushans, to solve and to come up with certain technologies and products so that we can, because there was like so much of uncertainty at that time. And one of the calls, you must have heard this story, that we created a ventilator in 90 days flat. Normally take 3 years to develop a ventilator. The ventilator is, if you buy it from outside, it costs you 15 lakhs, but today our ventilator is costing 2.5, 3 lakh rupees. And there are thousands of patients which are on the ventilator, which are working perfectly fine. And this achievement is highlighted in a book called the Innovation at the Time of Crisis, the IIT Kanpur Ventilator Project, written by Amitabh Bandyopadhyay and Shrikant Shastri. Incidentally, that has been launched on 7th of this month. One of the reasons was of doing this fast track innovation was because of non-availability of ventilators in the country. At that time, in the beginning of COVID, if you recall, it was said that every patient will be on the ventilator. So there was no ventilators were available around the world. So what we should do? Shall we allow our people to die, or shall we innovate quickly and create a technology so that, in the same way, I remember the N95 mask, which we proudly get for 50, 60 rupees or even 20, 30 rupees nowadays, it was black marketed for 600, 700 rupees. Even the doctors were not able to get for 500 rupees. In 9 months flat, now we are the second largest producer and exporter of N95 mask. People have seen PPE kits only in the Hollywood movies. Some alien attack happens, and then there is a PPE kit somebody is wearing, and they are walking in the Hollywood movies. In our Bollywood movies, they have not even seen the PPE kits. Forget about the real life. Now the PPE kits, like we are the largest producer and exporter of the PPE kits in the world. So how does it happen? It happened because there was a call and there was a need to do this. During my visits to certain hospitals during the COVID time, in fact, I myself was there on the invitation of Dr. Nageshwar Reddy, Padma Bhushan, who is also the chairman of AIG Hospital, the largest gastroenterology hospital in the world. And he was taking me for the round, and he said, Dr. Agarwal, look at this. There are only 2-3 things which are Indian, rest everything is foreign. He said the doctors are Indian, nurses are Indians, and maybe some medicines. And the patients are, of course, Indians. Rest everything is foreign. Even the bed that we buy, even the every single equipment you see is 80-90% of the equipment is we are importing. And he was not very happy about it. He was certainly saying that, he said, why can't IIT Kanpur do something? Why can't AIG Hospital do something? Immediately we agreed on signing an MOU, and today I am glad to say that with AIG Hospital we are developing 3 or 4 blockbuster products. We are miniaturizing the MRI machine. We are creating extrapolation to solve the challenge about the gastroenterology with them. So ideas come from doctors, and the engineers, they develop this and get it clinically tested. So again, the another challenge is that the similar question which you have asked about the innovation in education. Now the another issue is that the departments and the university works in silos. So I don't know why by design or by default, in India, the engineering education, the classical education, which is economics or literature, the cultural education like music and arts and all, and the medical education has kept in silos. It's like you are sitting in your own rooms, please, but should not talk to each other. They are different, you are different, you are different, right? Whereas if you look at the world over, and Ravi yourself has traveled across the world and you have seen the best of the universities, interacted with best of the professors, you know, if you look at the Harvard, Harvard is known for Harvard Med School, Harvard Law School, Harvard Business School. Cambridge University is known for their technology, their classics, their physics, their medicine. Stanford is again known for number of things because they work in tandem, they work with collaboration. Now something which we are now correcting, and we have taken a step here. Now IIT Kanpur has announced to set up a medical college within IIT Kanpur campus. 30 acres we have pegged. Now the reason is that when we go to the hospital, and when Dr. Reddy say 80% of the equipment is imported, I say 80% of the equipment what you are using, Dr. Saab, is actually engineering equipment. The monitors, the pipe, the ventilator, the UV sanitization chambers, even the clothing, everything is engineering equipment. Everything is manufactured in a factory, designed by engineer. Of course, the knowledge has to come from the doctors. That day, in my office in Kanpur, the National Board of Examination chairman, NBE chairman is again constitutional post. He is the highest authority which actually grants the postgraduate degree. He came and he was wearing a mask which is produced at IIT Kanpur called SOSA mask, N95 mask. Now he said, I said, Dr. Saab, what you are wearing is that actually produced 100 meters from my office. And he was like, wow, really? I said, can you take me? I said, yes, I am. Let me call the innovator who is there. And I called up the innovator and I said, and he given certain ideas to the innovator, Dr. Sandeep Patil. He said, make this mask in such a way so that I can wear it for 7 hours in the ICU or in the operation theaters. Now this mask has this issue, this mask has this design issue, and he immediately gave a feedback. Sandeep said, within a week, sir, we will solve these problems. Now that feedback was missing. And I can give you examples after examples that why innovation has not happened in education, because we sit in our own rooms, we don't talk to other departments, we don't talk to other people, and the idea of getting knowledge and giving knowledge has forgotten by our own universities कि knowledge बांटने से बढ़ती है. ये हमारे किताबों में भी लिखा हुआ है, पर हमारे यहाँ भारत में अनफॉर्चुनेटली माना जाता है नॉलेज अपने पास रखने से ज्यादा बढ़ती है. ऐसा नहीं है. नॉलेज को बांटिए, नॉलेज को आगे दीजिए, नॉलेज को सीखिए, तब इनोवेशन हैपन होगा. Then the innovation will happen. And I think everybody is responsible. I'm not saying only university. IIT is responsible. AIMS is responsible. Andhra University is responsible. Telangana University is. Everybody is responsible. We are collectively responsible. And I am a professor. I am taking this responsibility. So we need to correct it, and we should correct it now.
Sure. Nikhilji, thanks for highlighting this whole Make in India and Atma Nirbhar concepts and why it is so important for each of us. Professor Reddy, there is a question for you that how global collaborations can help in placements in higher education. What measures your organization is taking in the field of global collaborations? Over to you. Please unmute, Professor.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Nikhilji was rightly mentioning and pointing out on compartmentalization of education and building solid boundaries across the disciplines. And this is one reason why we could not, attract global collaboration. The narrow knowledge and interdisciplinary approach almost was not existing in higher education institutions. I don't talk about high-end institutions in India like IITs, IIMs, but the rest of the institutions, they were all compartmentalized, and exchanges within the institution, collaborations within the institution was almost not there. In fact, the NEP 2020 lays a greater emphasis on developing a distinctly Indian approach to internationalization of higher education. But this is not going to happen in one go. See, basically, it is apple to apple comparison. Like, when I want to, it may be my desire that I should be collaborating with Stanford. Then why would Stanford decide to collaborate with any of these institutions? Quite naturally, we should also elevate our level. And two ways we are looking at internationalization or global collaboration. One is, improve the quality of education and, go for interdisciplinary education, define new branches and new courses, and thereby, students from all across the globe can travel down to India. So our first strategy is to attract as many foreign students as possible into the fold of higher education institutions and universities of Andhra Pradesh. We are already working in that direction. Andhra University right now has a good number of foreign students pursuing their higher education in Visakhapatnam. Very closely following the suit, SV University, the second first generation university of the state. These two are towering institutions we have, and these two are playing the torchbearer role, and remaining institutions are following the suit. And slowly, we would like to fill the part of higher education space in Andhra Pradesh with foreign students. This is one way we can ensure collaboration. The second thing is about the research. I was initially, while talking about the initiatives of Andhra Pradesh State Council of Higher Education, mentioning about the establishment of a research board. Now, research is happening sporadically at the interest of an individual professor at in isolated spaces. Now, we need to bring them together. We need to channelize the research. We need to promote collaboration among the departments and disciplines. So, therefore, this research board is to promote interdisciplinary research, and then ensure a network between high-end institutions within India, to augment quality research happening in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Once we could establish, our research outcomes to a reasonable level, this is how we can collaborate with in a second stage, we can collaborate with the international organizations or international universities. Now, as another step, Akshay, the government of Andhra Pradesh has permitted establishment of greenfield and brownfield universities. Greenfield universities under private sector. Greenfield University Act is already there. We are coming out with a Brownfield University Act. Now, at the directions of our Honorable Chief Minister, we made the foreign collaboration with top 200 international universities mandatory aspect to establish a greenfield university in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Now, you may ask me why only with the private universities. See, the state-funded universities, I should tell you, Andhra Pradesh government has taken a huge burden of higher education on its shoulders. Now, we have 30 universities, I said. Typically speaking, 87% of the space is occupied by private institutions in Andhra Pradesh. Only 13% is the responsibility of public funded institutions. But then to improve the GER, to ensure inclusive growth, to ensure accessibility of education to all sections of the society, our government took some very bold decisions. The school-going child's mother will receive 15,000 rupees from the government as an incentive. Now, this way, the school dropout rate is aimed to be reduced very drastically. So, every mother who sends her child to a school will receive 15,000 rupees from the government. And the higher education space, government took another bold decision of reimbursing the tuition fee entirely. the government reimburses the tuition fee. And this is, though it is said for below poverty line, students, students belonging to below poverty line, but 80% of the students are covered under this scheme. In addition to this, 20,000 rupees is given as a maintenance scholarship to each student. So nowhere it is happening in this country, and 80% of the higher education space is now, though it is happening in private institutions, it is the responsibility of the government. Now, government, the financial position may not permit the public funded institutions to raise its level. The fund flow is not very liberal to the public funded institutions, universities. And therefore, as a first step, we thought, we should mandate the private institutions which are desirous of establishing universities in Andhra Pradesh to have a mandatory collaboration with the top 200 world-class institutions. And without that, we are not going to permit the institution to establish here. So the student exchange, the faculty exchange, we don't see a lot of things happening in terms of faculty and research collaboration with the established foreign universities. But definitely as a second stage, at a second stage, we would like to very seriously lay very solid connections with the foreign institutions. So these are some of the measures that we are initiating at the state of Andhra Pradesh. But definitely going in line with NEP 2020 document, we would like to internationalize the higher education space in Andhra Pradesh. There is no doubt about it, and we are working on it. Thank you, Dr. Ravi.
Excellent points, Professor Reddy, and it's heartening to see that government is supporting the students in terms of reimbursing the tuition fee and paying the family for sending the children to schools. I think these measures will be very, very impactful in increasing our enrollment ratios in school and also in higher education. That's it.
Dr. Ravi, sorry for the interruption. The last year expenditure, the budget allocation towards these scholarships is 12,600 crores. That's quite huge. 12,600 crores.
That's, I think,
6,000 towards mothers of the school-going children, and another 6,200 change towards the higher education student tuition fee reimbursement as well as maintenance scholarship.
Fantastic. So the amazing initiative, and let me ask Dr. Nikhil Agrawal that I think we have discussed about collaborations, and there are several questions by the audience regarding collaborations between universities inside India and outside India. And Dr. Nikhil, you have mentioned about that IIT Kanpur looks itself as a institution which is supposed to help others, and it is like helping others. So if you can highlight some of the initiatives under which IIT Kanpur is collaborating with the Indian university ecosystem and helping them in capacity development, and also if like there are any programs where other universities can collaborate with IIT Kanpur in some way or the other. So if you can throw some light on this aspect.
So certainly I must tell Dr. Ravi, and you have been in education industry for long, it's a wrong notion that IIT knows everything. It's a very wrong notion that, it's a wrong notion for anybody to say that I know everything. I think that's a stop of learning. Nobody knows everything. So there is always a learning, and when we go and seek help from others, we go with the same thought process. For example, we run one of the largest agri-tech programs in the country with Tata Trust and Melinda Gates Foundation. Though we say that we know little about agri-tech and all, but eventually we go to the corporate like ITC, Escort to say that, okay, can you tell us your problems? Another is that we collaborate. In fact, we reach out to the agriculture universities like Kerala Agriculture Universities, like we have Agriculture University in Kanpur, we have Sugar Institute in Kanpur. We reach out to them and said, you have experts with you, please send us to them so that we are able to understand this whole game much better. And it happens that we request expertise from outside. Now we are getting some we recently doing some programs at the Chhattisgarh in tribal areas. Now again, IIT has never worked in tribal areas earlier, so we reach out to the local expertise and we said, please tell us that how we can collaborate and work with you. So is the other way around. Same way that there are certain things that we know better, particularly in deep technology, artificial intelligence, in cybersecurity, innovation and incubation. And we have taken a very conscious step that it's our national responsibility. When these institutions are set up, the very much idea of setting up this institution is that not only they will produce the high quality manpower, but they will help the other institution so that the whole ecosystem and the economy develops. So today I can tell you around 10 to 15 colleges that we are mentoring very closely, including some of the new IITs like IIT Mandi, IIITM Gwalior, ABS Engineering College, Jaipuria Institute of Management, IIIT Lucknow, SATI in Vidisha, then in Ruhelkhand I was talking about, Jammu and Kashmir University, UPS in Dehradun. So number of institutions, and we are now reaching out and saying that, hey, that we know something now we are doing for last 20 years, please learn from us. Because when we talk about that, many of us has decided to come back to India, and for the reason that within our lifetime that we want to see the developed tag in the country. And this will not happen that if we keep on working in the silos and keep on working within our domains. We have to reach out further. We have to reach out and make sure that everybody goes together. It is always an option of people who have gained education to run from the country and start working in Silicon Valley or London or New York and live a very comfortable life. But when there is a decision being taken, okay, no, we have to come and work. So it is our moral duty, it's our ethical duty that we need to create and help this ecosystem. And we are reaching out, not just yesterday I was with the leadership of Kolhapur district. So Sate Patel, I think the Bhatija, Dr. D.Y. Patel, then the PMC commissioner, and all of them were there. And then we started something called Kolhapur Startup Mission, where the local problems of the Kolhapur will be given and they solved by the startups. Now that become a template. Now we tied up with in Kolhapur. Imagine where is Kanpur and where is Kolhapur? There is not even direct connection anywhere other than the K. Starting with the K, there is no other connection. So we reach out to D.Y. Patil University, and now this program is run in association with D.Y. Patil University in Kolhapur. Now that become a template. Now this template we are replicating in other districts also. We are now working with North Delhi Municipal Corporation. We are working with the district in Arunachal Pradesh. So we are reaching out to even remote locations and saying that we know certain things, we have experimented with certain things, you use our expertise, but using the local availability of the resources, you form this innovation ecosystem where the citizen problem will be solved by the local startups. So this is already happening, and we are not alone. There are other institutions are also doing, other IITs, other NITs, other ISRs, other even the bigger universities are also doing. And I would say that even the bigger private universities should also started participating in this innovation building and capacity building initiative. That's the only way. As I was saying in the beginning, that's the only way that we can see the beauty of the country is that everybody should become rich enough to live a comfortable life, and that is only possible. Now we feel proud that the 40 new, there was some news article yesterday, 40 new billionaires we have given last year. Why not 400? When the 400 billionaires are created, that means there are 40,000 jobs or 400,000 jobs are created. Billionaire will not run away with his wealth. Billionaire will actually distribute his wealth. He will create a company, more and more people will be employed. The last data I will give you, and then I stop here. I was speaking to some of the old timers in IIT Kanpur, and in 80s, and Ravi, you yourself is a graduate, probably know the statistics. In 80s and 90s, approximately 250 engineering graduates came out of IIT Kanpur, out of which 230 used to go abroad. Rest, out of 20, 15 were becoming IAS officers. Today, in fact, even in the home state of Professor Reddy, some of the top IAS officers like Praveen Prakashji and all are our alumni. 17 officers in the government of India out of 60 full secretaries are our alumni, because the very large number of people were joining in IAS office and rest of them going abroad. Number of even top CEOs like IBM Global CEO Arvind Krishnan is alumni. Now the trend has reversed. Today there are 850 engineers are graduating of IIT Kanpur every year, and you will be proud and surprised to know which statistics I'll give you, out of which 840 stays back in India. That is a hard statistics I'm giving you. 840 students does not go abroad. Even they have an option of going abroad. Only 10 to 15 people actually go abroad. Of course, I'm not saying that they stay in India forever. During the course of their job, they may be taking a stint outside, but they are not getting admission in IIT just to do an MS and just to have a life abroad. But now they are actually staying here. So the talent retention has started happening. And we will start seeing those changes within 10 years' time. When this talent is working for our own country, we will see the changes.
Fantastic data, and it is like heartening to see this, what we have mentioned, Nikhilji, that IIT students are looking at India as an opportunity, and now not India as a place to run away from. So it's a good sign. And I think I want to ask Professor Reddy that you mentioned about the national education policy, and there were a lot of new ideas and new changes were suggested. So if you can talk about, as the higher education regulator and a policy maker, what are how is your organization looking at implementing NEP reforms? Please unmute, Professor Reddy.
I'm sorry, every time I'm making this mistake.
It's okay. It's okay. All of us
this is one question that makes me very comfortable to answer. Feel very comfortable to answer this. NEP, as it is in true letter and spirit, Andhra Pradesh took it very serious, and we started implementing everything. Like I was in the inaugural. The first speech I was mentioning about redesigning the curriculum. Whatever the initiatives we have taken up in the state of Andhra Pradesh is totally in line with the NEP document. Now you look at the AP curriculum, both conventional and non-conventional. We are the first state to take such huge strides towards implementing NEP 2020. Now, when I talk about the curriculum design, I talk about a few things. We gave enormous flexibility to the student. Now, a student can choose a course within the college or can find an equivalent course in online and get a certification that will be converted into credits. So we are not forcing the student to all the time learn whatever is being taught in the classroom. This is the first flexibility we gave to the student. The second thing, 20% of the curriculum, UGC now says 24 are the mandatory credits for a student to be eligible to obtain a BCom degree or BA degree. In the domain-specific credits are only 24. Remaining, UGC says it is up to the university or the higher education institution. And we brought in 20% of the skill-oriented or skill development programs into the curriculum. Now, we had a series of discussions with the Confederation of Indian Industry and the Sector Skill Council. And I must tell you, I think Dr. Nikhil must also be knowing about it. AP Skill Development Corporation is doing an exemplary job. And we had a series of discussions with these people. and whatever is useful, domain-specific skills, we brought into the curriculum. And now, this is not enough designing a curriculum. See, if I want to bring out a best possible curriculum, I can draw people from IITs and they can always design a wonderful curriculum. The success of the curriculum depends on how you deliver it in the classroom. So the curriculum design is not everything, but effective implementation of the curriculum, effective delivery of the content in the classroom are the two key issues. Now, when we have introduced a skill, the capacity is not sufficient. My teachers and roles, they are not very well versed with this, and they are not dynamic as such. So therefore, they are not expanding their knowledge base. They are not looking at new areas. And we thought, AP Skill Development Corporation initially to develop such online programs and initially go for training of the teachers and later on reach the students. But then, meanwhile, our Chief Minister took a very bold step of establishing a skill university in the state of Andhra Pradesh with 30 satellite skill development colleges, one in each parliamentary constituency of the state of Andhra Pradesh. Now, what it is? Now, the curriculum has been designed and colleges were asked to implement this. Parallelly, there are 30 colleges, one college each in the immediate vicinity of almost a cluster of institutions, imparting the skills to the colleges as well as the students. In an unconventional mode, these skill colleges can work, in the weekends and in the night time, so that student without getting disturbed from the classwork, he can go and reach there. The skill development colleges will also act as finishing schools for these higher education institutions. So the skill part of it now, 21st century skills, much is being talked about. We have given serious thinking to it, and that is in place today. Not only the design, the curriculum design, the online support from the Skill Development Corporation of Andhra Pradesh and the Skill University, 30 skill colleges, they are all complementing each other, and therefore skill is very effectively implemented. We also made 10 months of mandatory internship. Now today, we rolled out our curriculum in the month of June. Now today, UGC wrote to all higher educational institutions to think of implementing mandatory curriculum, mandatory internship in the curriculum for the higher education students. Now we said 10 months of mandatory internship, and I think I should talk to Nikhil ji somewhere about, he was talking about DY Patil experiment of society problems and then solutions by the university. Within this 10 months, we allocated exclusive 2 months for the student to work on society-oriented projects. I mean, define a society problem and then work for its solution. So we almost brought in similar such changes in the curriculum of the professional colleges. 10 months of internship, a lot of minors, and enormous flexibility, pace of flexible learning. Again, we gave the flexibility to the student. Minors and majors, honors degrees, all have been designed. Now, NEP is talking about multiple entry, multiple exit. As a first measure, we converted the conventional degree programs into 4-year programs. We gave an exit option at the end of the 3rd year. By this time, he would have underwent 10 months of mandatory internship and all the skill programs. The final year would be entirely giving research orientation to the student. We reduced the PG duration to 1 year. And if need be, if a student wants to do PhD from the degree level, a 4-year degree can directly get into a PhD program. A 4-year degree holder can directly get into a PhD program. These are the whole lot of initiatives we already rolled out and started implementing in the educational institutions. And now, the second thing, Nikhilji was talking about compartmentalization. Now, we chose our two first-generation universities and 3 second-generation universities in Andhra Pradesh to convert them truly into MERUs, multi-disciplinary education and research universities. At the same time, we have 3 technological universities, Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University at Anantapur, Kakinada, and one RGUKT model. Probably, I don't know whether if time permits me, that's a wonderful experiment Andhra did 20,000. We pick students directly from rural India, place them for 6 years program, +2, and then 4 years of degree. So these three technological universities, they cover almost 1 lakh students enroll into all these three universities. So now we wanted to convert them into multi-education, multi-disciplinary education research universities. So efforts are on to bring in, but again there are two issues. One, when we convert them into Merus, the fundamental knowledge as well as advanced research. So advanced research may not be happening by tomorrow, but slowly we wanted to bring that culture into these universities, and we wanted to ensure 360 degrees of development for the student and knowledge available around him for him to choose the option. And we also permitted credit transfers. Now credit transfers are implemented in the state of Andhra Pradesh. A student studying in X college can register for a course in Y college and bring back the credits into X college. So all these features are incorporated, which has been rolled out. And I am very happy to inform you that we are more than ready to implement. In fact, we have implemented most part of NEP in the state of Andhra Pradesh by now. And I think we are the first state to do that. Thank you, Dr. Ravi.
A lot of, I think, reforms are happening in the higher education in AP, and it is a great sign that innovations in happening in the overall regulations, overall management, overall degree framework itself. So we will look at the closing remarks from the speakers on the session, and the last remarks I will request Dr. Nikhil to briefly talk about how do you see the next 2 to 3 years in the higher education ecosystem in this country. What's going to, or like, what are the changes you are foreseeing? What's going on, Nikhil?
So I think the one of the things which also is troubling, though we highlight the need for online education, but there was a recent other statistics that also we need to highlight and we need to be aware about. There are approximately 40 crore students who are into either in school education, higher education, at some way or others. During the COVID time, only 8 or 9 crore were able to get any access to the school or colleges were not streaming the classes because they didn't have hardware. So owning even the cheapest hardware cost 5,000-10,000 rupees, which number of students or number of parents are not able to afford. So that's another challenge. Like when we talk about the online education being adopted at a large scale, I see a significant challenge in terms of availability of the hardware to the masses. So, and that also hampers the acceptability of the online education. So we need to find a mechanism. So certainly the COVID has taken a toll on us. There are thousands of people who have died and suffered. But more than that, imagine there are 31 crore students who had no access to education for almost 1 year. The impact on the knowledge or impact on the ecosystem of India will be seen for decades to come. That will be the gap here that will be very difficult to map. So I think we need to find all the education leaders who are possibly listening to us today. My request is that find a solution so that more number of people we can train, regardless of the pandemic. Like pandemic is there, we know that. There is always a possibility that the COVID-19 happened, or COVID-22 happened, or COVID-25 happened, or COVID-30 happened. We don't know. But how do we solve it? And the problem which I'm highlighting is cannot be solved in a 1 day or 2 days. Imagine giving 31 crore devices to the poorest of the poor so that they have access to the education. So we don't enter into the dark air once again, or dark air not in terms of economy but in terms of knowledge dark air. So that is my honest appeal to everyone. We have to find a solution to that, and that will also opens up a possibility of innovations. Imagine that the hybrid curriculum, or the way that we have to impart the education, we have to come up with the new ideas. People have mastered somehow the Zoom based education in the last one year, but again the clientele of the Zoom education extremely limited. So that clientele, the other clientele of 400 million people, which is 40 crore, 300 million people, 30 crore approximately students who are waiting to be trained, waiting to be reached out. So there is an innovation in education we need at this stage. Certainly the artificial intelligence, cyber security, deep tech, medical tech are also important, but ultimately we have to look at the larger possibility that we have to come up with ideas and solutions so that nobody is left behind. Everybody, we take them forward, because this country will only progress when every single kid in the country gets education.
Fantastic, Nikhilji. Thanks for highlighting this aspect of digital divide in education, which is which has got exemplified in these times of COVID. So we have to address this issue as a overall society itself. And requesting Professor Reddy to give your closing remarks, and if you can briefly talk about next 3 years, how it will be the changes you are seeing in AP higher education.
Continue from where Dr. Nikhil left us. It's quite important for us to draw every child into the portals of the institution, make sure that he receives the knowledge, so that he shapes well before he actually goes out into the society to face the real life challenges. The schemes that the Andhra Pradesh state government has announced, I think it will have far-reaching consequences. In fact, we are taking out a baseline survey this year to establish or to assess the impact of these schemes in the higher education space. And for sure, the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh sets a very stiff target of 70 GER in the next 10 years for the state of Andhra Pradesh, way ahead of the national goal of 50 GER. So this is one major thing we would like to see, and challenges are many for us. We need to increase the capacity to accommodate so much, and also without compromising on the quality of higher education. And when I talk about without compromising on the quality of education, it's not as if we are already providing high quality education. We have to improve our quality as such. So when we are going in the expansion mode, we shall ensure that quality is not going to suffer any further, and further have a strong resolve to uplift to ensure high quality graduates being produced from higher education institutions. And when I talk about high quality graduates, it is fundamental knowledge as well as advanced knowledge. Very quickly, if time permits, one scholar in Gurukula days goes to Rishi Shaunaka. After serving him for the last 10 years, he expresses his opinion to leave the Gurukula and then go back to society. And he asks his permission. Guru says, you can leave. But this fellow was not very confident. He once again goes back to the Guru and asks his permission, whether he is a true scholar to go back to the society and face challenges. At that point of time, Guru Shaunaka says this, Mannado Chirakalamu, Gannado Pekulaina Gandardambulu, Vinnado Vinadaganavi, Gannado, Yunnado Pedalodanottamagostu. Meaning, very quickly, you are here for a long time. You absorbed the essence of various textbooks. You heard what you should hear, and you were a direct witness to scholarly discussions happening in the Gurukula. Now, all these four frame the fundamental framework, and we wanted to ensure that every student is very solid in its fundamentals, and then we also need to focus on advanced learning, particularly the 21st century skills, whatever people are talking about. So, like Dr. Nikhil was mentioning, we need to embrace the technology. We need to go for sure the blended mode of learning, and we need to ensure access to every possible child desirous of learning. And these are the three targets with which we are working. And I'm sure government of Andhra Pradesh solidly backing these initiatives, and now it is going to be quite easy. And our intention next 3 years, we should really make a difference and invite the attention of the rest of the higher education space of the country to look at Andhra Pradesh. And this is the target we have set for ourselves, and we are working very seriously at it. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. So AP is one state which has been a leader in innovation and IT, and I think whole India has been following AP in like IT adoption. So I think so many reforms in the AP higher education are a good sign, and I think it will also inspire other states also to follow the AP model in higher education. And Nikhilji, thanks for joining us and to talking on range of issues from policy to the Nirbhar Bharat, and also about institutional collaboration, and also the highlight I think of which was very, very heartening to see that IIT Kanpur collaborating with Kolhapur. So it's I think all this opens up new possibilities, and as Professor Reddy said that he would like to learn that how are you working with the societal issues. So I think good examples always inspire many others, and it has a long-term effect on societal development. So with this, thanking both of you, and our small token of appreciation to Professor Reddy for joining us at World Education Summit, the 18th edition. Thank you. And Nikhil Agarwalji, our CEO First and C3I Hub, IIT Kanpur, for joining us in this very, very interesting panel discussion. I enjoyed it thoroughly and actually learned a lot so much in last 1 hour. Thank you so much. Namaskar to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. Thank you, Dr. Nikhil. It was nice meeting you. Look forward to meet you again.
Same here, sir. See you.